everyone, welcome to this tutorial. Today we're going to be making these free styles of earrings. Now I'm calling them earrings for the sake of this tutorial, but they also can just be pendants, which is why I've done them slightly different here to show you that they can be pendants on their own, but I'm calling them earrings for the sake of the tutorial and so that when you look at the list of things that I've created, it isn't just saying pendants all the time. So we've got these brown ones, different shapes, different techniques, and they can all be interchanged and swapped. So as you can see, we've done the across here, which I've done here, and we've done the beads around. So I've just basically mixed that together, and you can put beads in between here. All I've used during this tutorial is 1mm, which is I believe 18 gauge for the Americans, and 0.3, which is 28 I believe. Each time throughout the 3 different sections I do mention how much I have used, bar the weaving wire, which as you all know I take different lengths of each time. I usually take 40 plus centimeters, except for these ones I used 20 centimeters and then slightly more, so I'd say I'd use about 25 centimeters for wrapping these. This one I took the 40 centimeters and got to here, and then took another 40 centimeters, so about 80 centimeters, just under a meter for this one. And these ones I use different lengths depending on the size of the beads I was using. So for the smaller one I didn't get right to the end, but I think that was about 3 meters worth, and this one probably 2. So again, it'll depend on the size of the beads you're using, how close together you put things as well. All that will affect the length that you need, and also the thickness of the wire you use. If you are using 0.3, it's not going to go as far as say 0.4, and if you're wrapping around 0.8 rather than 1mm, obviously the diameter of the wire is slightly less. So those things just to bear in mind. Depends how tightly you wrap as well. All these little things can make a big difference in how much wire that you use, but that's just how much I've used. I say how much I use each time of the thicker gauge, and I show you how to make the earring hooks at the very end of the 3rd tutorial. I think that's everything. Thank you all for bearing with me. Yeah, and I hope you enjoy this tutorial. So using our 1mm, we're going to take 2 lengths of 15 centimeters. Now you're going to need something circular to form around, and preferably something without a gradient, so I'm going to just be using this tool. I was originally going to use my get out my ring mandrel, but as you see this has a gradient, and because I need them to be the same size as these are going to be earrings, this isn't suitable. You could also use your pliers. This would obviously make them smaller, which isn't an issue for earrings. Obviously you want them lighter, but I just wanted to make them slightly bigger. So I'm going to go about just off centre to form this, and I'm going to bring them both around, pull that around a bit more, pull that around a bit more. So we've got this shape, and I'm going to go in with my flat nose pliers and pull them up, and then I'm going to take one away. Everything you do to one you do to the other, and the reason why I'm doing them at the same time pretty much is so that there's no discrepancies in the size. So as you can see there's a bit of a gap here, so I'm going to go in with my round nose pliers and I'm going to bend this around. What we're going to do is create a loop, so we're gonna have that there. You're able to cut this down a bit more. Do so. You might need to reform it if you do dent it slightly. Put it back on whichever mandrel you used and reshape it. if you need to hammer it, you know, that's a good idea to do now. I'm going to do the same with the opposite side. Okay, and I'm going to trim that there again. Make sure the flat side sits against the wire. You don't want people being able to catch themselves on it. So we've got the shape then. Again, we're going to reform it. And this is the finished look we're going to be going for, is wrapping beads on the outside. So we're going to do that twice. So what we're going to do is take a length of our weaving wire. So take a length of your weaving wire. And you're going to very simply anchor it to the wire. A bit of fluff on my nail there, take that off. Okay, pull them together. It doesn't really matter, you know, what weave you do at this point. All you really want to do is make sure that you do it consistently. So I'm going to do 5 wraps to a bead, and I'm going to do that on both earrings so then they match, and that is it, quite simply. And we're just going to go all the way around. Now these are earrings. If you're doing just this as a pendant, obviously it wouldn't really matter, but you really need them to match, unless you're going for the non-matching look, which is entirely up to you guys. So I'm going to attach a bead. Oops. I am using some small beads that are 3mm or 4mm. And the reason being that I don't want the extra weight. Again, these are going to be going in people's ears, and a lot of people don't want their earlobes to be dragged down. Again, it's personal preference. Some people like, you know, huge earrings, but generally most people like a smaller earring. Apology, I'm having some dexterity issues and I can't seem to find the hole. There we go. Okay, so thread your bead on. Pull it down. And what you want to do is hold the bead in place so that it's going to stay on the outside, and then pull the wire through this way. And you basically just want to hold it this whole time until you've fixed it in place. Okay, so now that's on the outside and it's not going to move. Well, I mean, it can move, but it's not going to slip unless we change the wrap and where the wrap sits, which is why we're also keeping this tail here and holding on to that so that it can't slip. And the more you do, the sturdier it will become. So again, I'm doing 5 wraps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm going to add another bead. Now I'm just using some mixed jaspers, but you could use whatever you wanted. You know, a really good idea for this is assuming you have 2 of the beads. You know, if you've got mixed like a mixed bead scoop, this is a great way of using them. If you're just going to use this as a pendant, it wouldn't matter if there was only 1 of them. As long as they match the 2 earrings, that's all that really matters. So like before, I'm going to hold this in place and then pull my wire through and wrap, and again pull it tight, and I want to push that next to it. that's 1, and I'm going to do 5 again. 3, 4, 5. Okay. And then we'd add another bead, and we basically just do that all the way around. So I'm not going to film the whole thing, I'm just going to go to one that I have done previously. So here we are, this is one I've done already, and I'm just going to add the last few beads here. And as I've said before, you want to hold this in place. Try and wrap the same way every time as well. It is, I mean, generally you're not going to switch sides, but if you're not paying attention, or like me, you've left it alone and you've come back to it, it's easy enough to not notice. 2, 3, 4, 5. Pull them together. Okay, I'll just fast forward this bit until we're nearer the end. And then to finish it off, we're just going to trim here, close to it as we can. You can get in there, just make sure it sits down nicely. Now in the next part I'm going to show you how to turn this into an earring hook directly, but for this option I'm not going to do that. We're going to turn this into a loop. So this side is our front, so what we're going to do is go in with our pliers. We're going to we'll do it this way to the side, so that when we attach it to something, it's going to sit forward. So then pull this over as much as you can. So we've got a loop. And then close that up. And depending on which way you want it to sit when you attach it to an earring hook, so if you want it to sit, you know, so that it's sideways on, or if it's at the front, you know, you'd twist this either way, or just add a jump ring so that it can move. So that's just something to also be aware of. So that is our first pair of earrings done there. So I've done one way, one the other. Wait there, let me just trim that and do it, put that forward. So as you can see, even though they are jaspers, they're slightly different, each colour is different, but they're obviously the same beads. So yes, like I say, one's gone forward, one's gone sideways. You would obviously have them exactly the same, but whichever way you wanted them to be, so they would match. And next we are going to make a triangle. The second shape we are going to be creating, we need to take about 20 centimetres there, 15 to 20. For this one we just need a bit more length. Again, we want them to match. And here we go again. We're going to cut here. We want to straighten these out, so a good idea is to take a pair of nylon coated pliers, and we just want to straighten these as much as possible. We don't want to be fighting with the wire. Okay, and then we're going to pick where our middle point is. One idea right now would be to use your masking tape if you wanted to make sure that these weren't going to move. And we're going to take a pair of flat nose pliers, and where my fingers are, I'm going to go slightly to either side, bend up, my fingers were here, again slightly to the other side, hold them tight, bend up. Okay, and you want to try and get the gradient as close as possible so that these two again match. So just adjust them next to each other as much as you can, and then doing the exact same as what we did just before, we're going to go in here and we're going to create a loop. Now you want to tighten that up a little bit, so I'm going to go in on this side and just pull it a bit more. And then over here I am going to cut it so that, remember, cut so that it'll be flat against the side. And we're just going to tighten that up a bit more. Close. Same on the other side. And we will go in with these flat nose pliers, and we're just going to kink that up so that it goes straight, so that we have the triangle. Now what we are going to do is take our wire and we're going to fill in the detail in the middle. If you've seen any of my previous tutorials, to know I'll here, this was the Christmas tree tutorial. We're basically going to do the same here, where we fill in the area and add in beads. That is it. It's nice and simple. So you're going to take a length of your wire, and you'll probably use quite a bit of wire for this, just a heads up, because we're going to be wrapping all the way along. We're going to anchor to the inside, and then we're going to wrap. This is basically connecting two base wires, and we're going to go from thinner to wider so that the wire doesn't slip when we are wrapping, so that it's easier for us. So we're just going to do a few anchor wraps. We're going to pull that tight, we're going to pull it down here. We've got our tail so that we're holding that, and then it's entirely up to you how you do this. You really, at this point, because you were fixing it into place, you want to make sure that wherever you've put the frame, that's where it's going to sit. This would be an ideal point to hammer it. If you don't know how to do that, you get a forgive me, I've just got bits everywhere on my desk right now. You get a steel block and a hammer, which I currently don't seem to have. So yeah. Yes, I do. I have my hobby hammer. So if you have noise sensitivity, guys, you might want to mute this now because this will be louder. And turn it over this side so that, obviously, because the loop's there, you don't want it to distort. Okay, so we've created that shape. Put that back down. There you are. So now the shape is fixed in place. Do the same with the other side. You could also have done that with the loops, because we were just wrapping around it, it wasn't so important. And then we are just going to continue to wrap over. I'll just move this out of the way. So I'll just clear this desk a little bit, getting beads and everything everywhere. Yep, so it's up to you. This is, again, I didn't know if I started the sentence or not. It's connecting two base wires together, so you could do different patterns if you want. I'll link that video below. And you just want to wrap over, and then whenever you so choose, add in beads. You could add them on the outside or in the middle, or both, if that's what you wanted to do. It's entirely up to you. I'm just going to add some in the middle. So I'm going to do a few wraps and then go over, and I'm going to add in, I just have random beads next to me, so I'm just going to add those in. And because these are earrings, you want to make them match. Okay, so I've picked a large bead there just so that I can move the wrap down a bit quicker. and we're just going to keep wrapping, and you just want it to match on both sides, and then obviously for the other earring you want it to match. So I'm going to fast forward it here at this point, but it is that simple. And when we get to the bottom, you could do single loops along here, but because we just hammered it, it won't be necessary. So that's just another option for you guys. Okay, so just as an example, I've done different size beads there. Personally, I prefer using smaller ones. I think they just look better. Also, again, if these are earrings, you really need to consider the weight of the piece that you're creating. But that's just my personal preference. I prefer the smaller, but I wanted to show you both just so you could see. So this is a faceted onyx that I've used here, and this is an 8mm. These are 12mm. These are 6mm. These are 4mm. And I'd even use smaller, to be honest. And I'd consider using different shapes as well. I'm just using what I have to hand. But you know, this is a great way, as long as you have one each. If you're doing earrings and you can put them on both of them, you can use whatever you've got. So if you've bought, I don't know, a mixed bead scoop that a lot of places offer, and you're not quite sure what to do with them, this is a great way of using up those beads. So what we're going to do now is, I purposely left a little bit more this time. So we're going to go in with the round nose pliers, and we're going to bend this over to create that loop there. I'm just going to kink that out a bit more there. So we've got our loop, and we've created our own earring hook. You want this slightly sharp, but not too sharp, so I always make a point of cutting it at an angle, so that it's going to be sharp enough to pierce the ears. And if you want, you can also put in a little kink at the end as well, that some earrings have. So there you are. I didn't mention during wrapping, because obviously I fast forwarded that part, but I made a point, some of you may have noticed, where I was purposely putting the wire behind the beads. That's because I decided which side was going to be my front, which side was going to be my back. I didn't want the wire going over and changing that. Remember, I cut off any parts of the wire and to secure them down. Same up here again, and trim them off, and then you just do the same on the other side with the other earring and create the matching set. So after finishing this one, I went away and did this off camera in exactly the same way. The only thing different is that I've used smaller beads, and I didn't get right to the end because obviously it's just an example for you guys, but I just wanted to show the difference. So it's exactly the same technique, you know, we've turned them into earring hooks on the back, but the only difference being the size of the beads that we've used. Obviously these are heavier. Personally, I do prefer with smaller beads, but it's entirely up to you guys how you want to play this and what you want to make. So now we're going to go on to the third option. So taking our 1mm again, what I am going to just mention here is in this particular video I've been obviously using the same gauge of wire each time, but there's a person in the Facebook group and she happened to ask about using I think it was 5mm wire that she had. Everything that we're creating here, you could use a thicker gauge, so if you wanted to use 2mm, 3mm, that's fine. We're doing these for earrings, so you have to take into consideration the weight. But say you were just doing these as pendants, then that's something that, you know, the 5mm would be really useful for. And I'm going to do a couple of other easy tutorials coming very soon that I will also say you can use the thicker gauges for. Now for this part of the tutorial, basically it's a combination of the last two that I've just shown you, and we're going to take a full 30cm this time. Oops. Try not to hit the camera, Kayleigh, that would help. I think I may have just slightly knocked it out of focus. There we go. Okay, so we're going to do that. As I've said on the other two, take two lengths, do it at the same time. I'm just going to do one here and now. As like I say, you can use these as pendants or earrings. And what we're going to do is, to begin with, we're going to create the bit that will be the top section. And we're basically working backwards. You can do this as a square or a rectangle. All I suggest is whatever you do, do it about the same size. So I'm just going to pull this down. And then I'm going to actually do this measuring. Now if you're doing these earrings, you probably don't want them too big, so bear that in mind. So how long was that? That's 2 centimeters, which means it'll be probably 4 centimeters the full length, so we want to go 4 centimeters coming down. So I'll put my pliers in there, pull it along, 4 centimeters again. Sorry if I'm doing that slightly off camera. Don't forget the gradient you pull it to will affect the size that you go for, so just at the size you create, not go for. Silly brain. And we're going to go in again. Oops, apparently I just knocked something off my desk. I've changed the desk situation up, so need to be careful. And we do have extra here, so you could use this to incorporate it in. I'm just going to do the same as what we've done the other times. And you know, I like a little bit extra so that I have leverage, but you probably could have got away with a little less wire, so instead of 30, maybe 28 centimeters. I'd still want the extra there. I'm going to pull it over slightly. And pull that around. Go in with our flat nose, not flat nose, cutting pliers. Oh, can you tell my brain fog's bad today, guys? And now we're gonna cut this here, close. So then we've got our frame, and again, as with the other two, you can either change the top part into just a loop or into a direct earring hook. It's entirely up to you. Because of the size, I would suggest doing it into a loop and then attaching it to an earring hook. Okay, so taking a length of your weaving wire, you're going to attach this to the bottom. And like I said, this is basically just going to be a combination of the previous two tutorials, but again, a different shape. It's really simple. The next tutorial, I don't know if it's going to be on Monday or Thursday, but it's going to be for Valentine's Day technically, but it's going to be similar to this in that the techniques we're using will be kind of similar. I was going to do it actually as part of this tutorial originally, but then I realised Valentine's Day was coming and like, why don't I do it separately and have a dedicated video to it? So that's why. Now we're going to take our beads and we're going to add them along the bottom of the frame. So basically the point of that was that the upcoming tutorial, which will be love hearts, I don't know if I'll just use love hearts, but I know I had some ideas and I kind of wanted to incorporate them together. You can switch these techniques between them. Okay, so let's not get the wire all tangled on itself. So we're just going to attach some wire along this bottom section and with beads at the bottom as well. Undo any kinks that the wire might create. And as I mentioned previously, all that you need to do is make sure that it's equal along. And again, if you are doing earrings, as this is an earring tutorial, then do match. But if you're just doing a pendant, then obviously it doesn't matter as long as you keep the same here. Another question I have for you guys is, I do watch some other people's tutorials every so often. I pay attention, I am subscribed to some of them, and another person had been doing like fast and slow tutorials, and I'm not going to do that because, in case you guys don't know, you can actually speed up a video very easily yourself. If you go into the, there's a little gear on the YouTube, like it'll be at the bottom of the screen, like down at the bottom, and then there's like a little gear and you click on it and then there's speed, and then there's like the ones up are fast, so like 2 blah blah blah, and then the ones below 0 point are slow. So if you ever want to watch it faster or slower, you can do that yourselves very easily, and that's just a good tip for anything, you know, if ever you're watching anything on YouTube and for your own capabilities you need it faster or slower. So that's one thing. I just thought I'd mention that. But what I was considering, and I'd like your feedback, was doing basically posting the same tutorial, but one where I speak and one where I don't, so it would just be music with like writing put in of what, you know, so take centimeters, wrap so many wraps, you know, it would be written rather than me speaking, and posting both versions, because I know some people with different conditions find it easier to listen to people talk and it helps them, and other people prefer it the other way. So I have been considering doing that. So if you guys would like to give me your feedback on that, because I know obviously I like to talk during my tutorials and, you know, just be like, oh, how are you guys doing, comment below. But that's just me as an individual, that I like to do that. You guys might prefer just, you know, literally watching the tutorial itself and not listening to me in my brain fog all the time. So yeah, if you guys would like that, like I say, just comment below, and I will incorporate that into upcoming videos. Well, I'll do separate videos, like I say, because obviously during this one sometimes I will do that if I forget to mention something at the time anyway, but it would just be a lot like I don't know how to say her name, Anna something tutorials. It'd be like the way she does it. So yeah, if you'd like a version of where I speak and tell you to continue, and then also that option, let me know below, because I think that could be quite useful for, again, people with different problems or preferences. It doesn't even have to be that you have any chronic illness or anything affecting you. It can just be that you prefer to just read and then have it faster. I've also, I mean, you guys may have noticed that it's been a while since I uploaded. I got flu over Christmas time. I did do an update video, you saw that, but I got flu and it flared up my chronic illness, and then I crashed a couple of days ago. That's a health term, I didn't have like a car crash or anything, just heads up. Yeah, so I'm not even sure I really should be filming today, but at the same time I was like, I really need to upload a video. It's been over a month basically since I last did something, and my subscribers are amazing and they need something, so I filmed like in between and then had to refilm because it was just bad quality. Yeah, so what was the point of what I was saying? Yeah, so I've just been unwell and haven't really filmed very much. So I'm wanting to get a few done this week, and whilst I was doing that I've had like ideas of how I want the channel to be. So I'm thinking that I might start doing like Mondays being like beginners tutorials, you know, quicker and easier ones, and then the Thursday being, you know, intermediate plus. I know that my beginner ones tend to get a lot more views usually. It's just something I've noticed. So obviously I think Wirework takes confidence sometimes, and if people haven't got that confidence, I'm going to have to do this off camera guys, I can't see the hole. If people haven't got the confidence, they can really struggle. So doing, you know, a mix of the two. I can't find the hole in that bead at all, I'm just going to get a new one. Could just be my eyes. Oh, there we go. Found it straight away on the other bead, so I'm going to blame the bead, not me. Anyway, I'm just going to fast forward this bit, but if you guys let me know what you think of that as well down below. I've added some new lights to the setup as well. I know you can't see them, but I've got some let's unhook this bit. Got some new LED lights that I've put around just to try and help with you guys being able to see. Sorry, this matte background drives me nuts for getting little bits of white on it all the time. Don't even know where it comes from. Yeah, so I've just been changing some things up. So yeah, I'm going to fast forward now and then I'll rejoin you in a second speaking. Okay, so we have done these along the bottom. So I just wrapped that bit up there. I've still got a bit of white left, so I'm just going to continue on here. Obviously, if you didn't have enough wire after doing there, you just attach some and carry on. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go across, and in the same way we have done in the other tutorials, we're just going to wrap along, and we're going to do 5, 2, and then on the third one we're going to insert a bead on the outside. Now you could also put beads on the inside and along like we did again on the previous tutorials. So, and then we're going to do 2 more, so we're keeping our 5, the only difference being that no, we're not going to go back through, we're going to go over at this point. We're doing this, and you can either move it up and down so that they sit next to each other, which they'll move along anyway, just naturally. I'm going to attempt to keep them in a straight line. Okay, my third wrap, so I'll put the bead on over here. I have to apologise, I hadn't realised how bad my eczema was when the first part of the tutorial. Just obviously I know it's not beautiful to look at, but unfortunately that's just one of those things. I've just put some cream on to try and calm it down. So we're going to go over again. Like I say, these will be able to move along, just attempt to get them to sit nice, I suppose. Okay, and then the third wrap, I'll attach another bead. And we're just going to do this all the way along, and like I did say, if you do want to add beads in here, you can. I'm not going to, because again, I'm doing these as earrings, even though I'm technically only doing one, but I'm only doing one for camera. But where you obviously doing them as earrings rather than a pendant or whatever, you don't want that extra weight. That's why I'm using smaller beads, not a huge amount of wire and thinner wire. Also, I don't think I mentioned this earlier, but one of the best things for earring hooks, so it's better to just buy them pre-made, in all honesty, if you can, because they're usually really good quality. It's simple and you just have to attach, like there's no excessive brain power needed to make them, there's no real technique, you just have to open them up. And they're usually pretty cheap, so financially it's good for you as well. So where you can, I would just suggest doing that. It's just easier for you guys. But if you want to, 0.6 and 0.8 are better. I can fit a 1mm through my ears, so I didn't even think about that until just before. Ironically, the good thing about this taking a few weeks for me to film is that I've had a chance to think about things that I wouldn't have thought about, you know, if I'd just done it in one day. So 1mm can sometimes be too thick for some people's ear holes. So that is something to also consider, where obviously I've gone directly a few times and just created the earring hook from this bit, like I have done in, a moment, let me find it. So in this one, obviously we created directly from the 1mm, and that would fit through my ear, no problem, but some people it might not, so doing the loops is another option. I'm going to show you how to create a earring hook in just a moment. So we would simply continue along. I'm going to have to attach some more wire and do that. So I'm going to fast forward this, and then I'll add some beads up here, show you guys that, and then I'll show you how to create the earring hook. Okay, so we've done up the way along. These are still movable and adjustable, and personally I prefer that. There's a reason behind this. A lot of people, when they get anxious, they like to play with their jewellery. It's just a nervous habit, and one thing I noticed is, personally, like if ever I'm like, you know, like uncomfortable or even just bored, I noticed that I'll play with the jewellery, and I like the fact that stuff like this, I could notice I kept doing it. When I could move it along, I'd just like play with it like that, like whilst I was wearing it. So personally I'm going to keep it like this because I like that, and I've noticed that there's a practical application for me. But you guys can, you know, wrap in between, or you could just, you know, if you want to do more, you could push it all the way down. And have them sit next to each other so that they can't move. That's another thing. I'm not going to do that, like I say. I'm going to keep them spaced out. Come on, move. It's a personal preference, but you guys, again, you could do whatever you want. Do you know, I actually had considered at one point doing a line of jewellery, especially like focused upon that, so like using you know, if you believe in spirituality, gemstones that were for calming anxiety. And I don't really have anxiety like personally, but you know, if I'm like waiting for something or I feel people looking at me, then I'll be like a bit awkward. But I had considered like doing a line of jewellery especially about that sort of thing. Would you guys be interested in something like that? Let me know. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring it over here, and I'm just going to complete it by doing the exact same thing on the bottom, on the top. The only problem being here, because of going to a thinner to a thicker area, obviously the wire will be able to slip, so just be aware of that when you are doing this. As you can see, it's even holding it in place, it's trying to wrap over itself. So just something to be aware of. And basically, yeah, I'll just fast forward this bit because it's the exact same as the bottom. You're just going to add beads on, and we'll probably just skip over here and go to there, and it's up to you if you connect all the pieces or not. Just let me adjust these again. Oh, also you could always hammer them in place. Obviously I wouldn't hammer the sides or any of the wrapping, but if you just wanted to lightly, you know, tap these with, I mean, I wouldn't even want to put them on a block or anything, just nice and lightly you can, just to give them that little bit of extra strength. Yeah, so I'm going to attach beads and do this top bit along. And then I'll come back and we'll do the earring hooks. So I'm just going to switch over sides now. I'm just going to do it loosely. I'm not going to, you know, we've done quite tight loops there. I'm not even going to bother with that. I'm just going to jump over with a loose wrap and then do the 5 again. Also, I'm running low on wire, so I don't feel the need to attach more wire just for this tiny little bit. So I'll just do 2 beads on this side, the same as we did there, and then I'll come back because I think my battery or my timer, one of them two, is about to run out. Okay guys, so here we have the finished pendant, earring, whichever you're making, and like I said, I'm going to show you the loop side. I prefer the front to be the side where that's hidden, but I mean it's up to you which one you want. And I did mention in the other tutorial about when you do the loop, you know, pick which side it's going to be. If you want the loop, if you want the earring to be on, so say this is the head, you want the ear, you know, for it to hang down the side, or if you want it to hang down at the front. For something this large, it'd be better going down the side. But yeah, it's just another thing to be aware of. Oh wait, which side's the front? There's a quick trick for you guys if you've not seen me do that before. If ever I do it the wrong way, you just bend it around. Okay, we're just going to go over, and if you were turning this into an earring hook, you'd just do that slightly larger obviously, but we're going to turn this into a loop, not a wrapped loop, just an open loop, because we're using 1mm here. It's strong enough. I'm going to go in. That loop's slightly distorted because of me twisting it, but you get the idea. Okay, and then straighten it all up. There we have it. We're going to loop, so that's that. If you're doing this as a pendant, you know, do the loop slightly bigger and put it on cord of some kind or a chain, whatever you guys would prefer. So I'm going to show you quickly how to make an earring hook, and we're going to use a thinner gauge. I've got some 0.8 here. Is it 0.8? Yep, 0.8. Just what I had on my desk ready. Depends how big you want the earring hooks. I personally take out 2.5 inches. I will cut some off of this size. Okay, and then if you, obviously you're going to be making at least 2, so you want consistency. So using the step pliers or marking your round nose pliers, whichever's easiest for you. You need to create the loop. And then have a little kink. Close, and then you want to go slightly up because you obviously the front of the ear you want it to slightly dangle. You don't want to be scratching against the ear, but also not too high up. And then I go in with the thickest. Let's get this to line up straight. Okay, so I've gone about 2 centimeters up. I'm going to pull this straight over. You have your earring hook. Now this would probably be quite long, but some people prefer that for extra security, but I'm going to cut it slightly, and you can kink it if you want. Not going to do that, just for personal preference, and I like it to be slightly lower than there, so some people cut it literally to that point. I like to go about 0.5 centimeter down, just so we've got our earring hook, and you could make 2 at the exact same time. So that's how you make an earring hook. If you do choose to hammer it, do not hammer this section here, because people when they're putting them in their ears will adjust them. Not even like on purpose. When they're just putting it in, they're gonna move it slightly, and because we created this loop here, we can then open it and attach, and then close. So like I say, if you're making your own earring hooks, use 0.8 or 0.6. Personally I prefer 0.8 just for the strength, but there you are, you have your earring, and you would obviously do that for every single one. And where you're buying pre-made earring hooks, they always have this little opening in them. So I just went and found some as an example. A couple of earring hooks I have here, also in the gold tone, and if you can see this, they are open again. So taking a pair of pliers, you want to open that, then there you have the open loop, and you would attach that. Again, you can actually make these exactly as you want. So where we have done this, you'd use a gizmo coil, a bead, and then just bring it further forward. It's that simple. I'm not going to do that in this tutorial because it's running quite long, but that's all you have to do for your earring hooks. So thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you for waiting patiently whilst I've been ill. I hope you like this tutorial. If you do, give it a thumbs up. Could you hit that subscribe button as well? When I get to 1,000 subscribers, I am doing a giveaway, and it will include things like wires and beads, probably some tools, you know, bits of everything. And it's open to everyone internationally as long as you're over 18. So if you're interested, you know, hit that subscribe button, and if you want to know when I upload, you can hit the bell notification next to it as well. We also have a Facebook group. I will link it in the description box below, so if you want to join that, I always update people with what's going on if I'm filming, or obviously over Christmas I wasn't very well, so people knew about that there first. And I often ask questions, what people want to see, what they've got coming up, and like I say, there was the lady who asked about using 5mm wire, so if you have questions, it's a great place to ask me, because obviously most people are on Facebook all the time. yeah, so thank you so much for watching, and thank you for being patient over Christmas. I hope you all had a lovely Christmas period or holiday period, whatever you celebrate. And I should hopefully be back to my regular filming schedule this week, so thank you all for being patient with me. Alright guys, I love you all, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye!